basically any woman in any first world country can download Tinder and find a guy in like 45 minutes.
Yes, but this is such a reductive idea about what sex is, and this is the problem, because incels think that if they have sex with a woman, that's going to solve all their problems. You know, sex is actually not just this idea of just putting your penis into a vagina and then somehow your world is just restored.
Kidology, repeat after me. No amount of goji juice on my bepis, and no amount of penile insertion in the vajoji makes your point right or wrong. But it certainly pisses you guys the fuck off on Twitter when we have it, and you can't call us incels anymore. I swear to God. But no, that's not what incels think. What actual, true incels think, otherwise known as people who aren't in relationships, is that they would feel better if they were able to pair bond and found a person that they could be able to pair bond with. They are citing that they cannot get into relationships, not that they can't get sex. If what they wanted was sex, they would pay prostitutes. They don't want to pay prostitutes because they don't want cheap, meaningless sex. They want relationships, not relations. As we will find out later in the video. Is this what it comes to? Is this what I have to do with myself? Is this what we have to do, chat? You better enjoy this shit. This shit's gonna be more painful for me than it is for you. Nigga, what the fuck?
Like, it's a lot of communication, talking, understanding the body and the physicality of the specific individual.
So, despite the fact that you're admitting that you don't listen to the people who you criticize, what makes you believe that you are not an incel by your own definition, as you're going to go on to explain? Because, like, you can say, oh, well, see, the men think this and this and this, but it's like, they don't. The men are probably the most explicit ones of this that explain that. Like, you're acting like we don't know who Bass FCZ is. You're acting like we don't know who Mike Christensen is. And I'm pretty sure Mike has gotten himself a chocolate goddess! And regardless of all the women that you pretend don't exist, that explain the exact same thing, and they do want dick, you included, why do you insist to, like, put out all these factors that are the definition of what a relationship is and what pair bonding is, and then just say, no, men don't want all this, they want this? It's a little bit pedantic, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with any of that. But you'd be a VolCel. You're voluntarily celibate, right? Because if you wanted to just bang somebody, it would be easy to do that.
See, Destiny agrees.
But you're not.
No,
but you're
I want
voluntarily
to have sex with somebody, but I want to have actual sex with somebody, not this hypothetical.
Yeah, so you're looking for like a
run that back home again.
I want to have sex with somebody, but I want to have actual sex with somebody, not this hypothetical.
Yeah, so you're looking for like
yes, actual sex, sex too.
Like a healthy relationship, and then for some sort of action to occur within like the confines of like a loving, romantic, healthy relationship, I imagine, right?
Now, Steven, she don't want sex. She want fuck. You know, motherfucking talking about they fucking. She want this fucking.
No, I don't even need that. I think I just want the sex to be good.
I am the coochie whisperer.
You know, I want it to be, you know, a meaningful experience. I want it to be profound.
I don't know about you, but I know that when women are trying to go out to gym at night, or they're getting in the gym tonight, they're not looking for the divine answers of the universe. They're just trying to crack a good nut. Like, that's you. You can have all the universal secrets of orgasms you need, but you need to start with the boyfriend and or girlfriend, and or man and woman or non-binary creature that pegs you. You gotta start there. Not this Harlequin romance. I want the stars in the universe to lighten up the moment that I unfurl my divine womanhood. Find somebody you like that makes you laugh so they can make your toes curl. That's simple.
Okay, hear me out. And I know this is very difficult for a lot of people, especially men.
You see the delight in your eyes and on your face as you have to turn your eyes away from the focus finder of the camera? How you are taking part in the duper's delight of shitting on a gender that you are attracted to and are trying to find meaningful, actual, real, good sex relationships inside of? That's why you can't find a man or a woman. And no, upset contrarian who's going to represent every person who's going to be mad and use this as content in their channel. That is actually the problem. Men don't like this kind of attitude and behavior. We don't pair bond with this. We don't put up with this because that's our boundaries. She might claim that it's her boundary to have actual, real, meaningful relationships so she can have actual, real, good sex. But if you can't be able to stop doing shit like this, the ick that it presents to other people is going to prevent you from the things that you want. And that is something that is what we define as involuntary. If you claim you can't stop doing this, this is a voluntary choice. Nobody made her put that there. She did that. She made that. We can read all the hell we want into it because that's her behavior. If you think that's funny and a joke, you're the problem. Continue.
Basically, just for some context, I was talking to Destiny and we were talking about me being an incel, somebody who is involuntarily celibate. Now, people have a huge problem with me saying this, and I think this is just because our understanding of incel is so marred by the pejorative and negative connotations of what an incel is. The idea of some young guy sitting in his room all alone on a forum, hating women, hating the world, believing that he is being rejected because of his looks, because women are picky, because of hypergamy, etc.
I mean, yeah, people are going to be upset with you if you misuse terms and you misdefine terms because you don't understand what the term is. Like what you just said there is a misuse of the phrase incel. Incel means someone who is involuntary celibate, not an internet loser who has misanthropy about the world. People get angry when you try to redefine textbook words and then say, what? It is how everybody on the internet uses it. Because that's what happens when you guys leave chud to go to incel, so you can destroy the etymology of that word, so you can insult people at a distance because they prove you wrong on the internet.
And I think this, as well as just a very normal, everyday assumption that if a woman wants to, she can get sex. That it is so easy for a woman to get sex whenever, however.
Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, Plenty of Fish, Pure, Ashley Madison. To say that this is the worst rehash of the talking points from the Goob Gay years up until about 2018 is putting it fucking lightly. But yes, 80-20 rule, etc., women literally do have it easier when it comes to finding people to have sex with. And that is what you claim you want. You want good sex. Good sex is based on intimacy. Intimacy can only be built in relationships with people who you learn and come to know and trust the same way that you would, well, any person who becomes a member of your intimate personal group. The only way to do that is to give them a chance. And the only way that you're going to be willing to give a person a chance is if they somehow have the magic finger touch, that as soon as they touch your leg, you ecstatically learn the secret of the universe after having 17 chained orgasms. That's not hyperbole, literally what you just said. Let's do an experiment, everybody. Go onto Twitter and look through all the kinds of profiles that you can have if you look up the 3 following terms. Chud, incel, crybaby, man babies. Look at all the people, look at all those individuals, go through their profiles, look for pictures that they post of themselves. Those people, regardless of how obnoxious and toxic their worldview and their rhetoric is, I can almost promise you, they will not only have found somebody who is just as nasty as them, but they will somehow formulate relationships with people on that alone. That is a truth, a universal truth, that you have to come to terms with. There are plenty of fish in the sea, and there will always be more women than there are men. For men, it means they're going to have to deal with the reality that they're going to have to do things to improve themselves and improve their odds and chances. But in reality, in a gynocentric society that believes that women have it worse at all times, even when the women are doing the punishment to themselves, they will never accept that it's not as bad as they think it is. Because they didn't get one teeny bitty everything that they wanted on the giant checklist of build a boyfriend workshops.
At her own discretion. I think this is the root of the problem. When we talk about declining rates of sex, especially in the West, it's often just focused around men and how much sex men are having, with this inference that somehow women control access to sex.
Because none of you want to be able to accept the reality is that the reason there's a rise in lonely men, but there isn't a sharp increased rise of lonely women, is that the women are sharing the same shitty men and then further ragging on the men, thus leading to more articles talking about more of the statistics about how men are getting a short end of the dating stick, when really, men are busy in the gym. And I don't just mean in the gym! They're in the gym, detracting from the relationships, because unlike women who go on the internet and say, I can't get a man, they instead are saying, I can't really get a girlfriend, but I got Pokemon, I got Monster Hunter, I got video games, because at the very least, they have something to do. And that's not even saying all women. It's just the loud ones, the extremely vocal minority, which involves you. It feels a little bit targeted, but the reason why it is because it is. And yes, women do control sex. They have always controlled sex. Men control who they marry. Women control who they have sex with. If you find yourself incapable of saying no, you probably have a problem. Or you might be in a third world country.
And yes, in theory, that is the case. But I think in reality, things are obviously and inevitably with everything a lot more complicated than we ever give it credit for. In our modern conversations about sex, about intimacy, there is this profound lack of appreciation, or this underappreciation, that for women, bad sex can really be scarring and shocking. It can be very traumatic insofar as actually undermining any possibility of you even being able to have sex. This doesn't mean that I don't want to have sex. It doesn't mean that I am voluntarily choosing not to have sex. I physically and mentally cannot have sex.
Go to therapy. Go to therapy. Go to therapy. If you are so traumatized by a man who once gave you bad head that you can't have sex ever again, go to therapy.
And this is in no way unique to me. I think this is far greater a phenomenon than we give it credit for, in the same way that the vast majority of women don't actually gain much sexual pleasure from penetrative sex, that a lot of women fake orgasms, that a lot of women don't even have orgasms on a regular basis.
So much like you, those women need to learn how to use their words with their intimate partners and tell them, listen, honey, that thing you do with the ice cream scooper does not get me off. I did not enjoy that. I keep faking that every time you do it. Can we do something that I want to do? And you need to be able to, with all of the intents, with all of the peace and love that you can muster, grab his fucking head and show him what makes you nut. Take charge. Be responsible. Be accountable. But that's too hard for some people, because being accountable means that you actually have to take account, take stock, take interest. Not just point your finger at the problem, blame somebody else, and start cheating, like many people tend to do. It is the most healthy thing that you could do for your relationships. Start using your words. If you don't know how to verbalize your words, start asking your personal friends. Ones that are like me. The loud ones. The ones that people would claim are obnoxious. Ask them what your personality is like, and what they would do if they were in your shoes. They're probably going to give you the best advice, and the reason why is because the obnoxious ones are actually people who think and observe a lot, but get told you should stop talking because other people didn't like what we had to say. It would be helpful for you. It'd also be helpful if you stop posting this shit publicly, but it ain't gonna happen anytime soon.
I think these are all little dark secrets that we keep in order to, well, keep our partners happy and satisfied with us, but also because I think the influence of and this idea that women are getting so much pleasure from men knowing how to do all these various interesting little techniques is just taken for granted.
And you would be wrong. Can't blame the porn on this one. There's a reason why the goth alternative girls keep getting Roger Rabbit autistic Riz men. It's not just because those men have a pegging fetish. It's because they tell them what they want. They're direct. Women who are timid and are not being direct tend to not get direct solutions to their problems because they're believing society, otherwise known as the girlies, that they need to lie to their partner and then turn over on the pillow and zzz, and that's not a solution because that leads to resentment. And then the resentment leads to cheating, which then leads to breakups, which then leads to traumatized men and women that don't heal. And then people hurt people. This excuse that people want to blame pornography is long time since debunked. It needs to stop. Porn is not meant to be a replacement for female and male intimacy that is on a real level. In fact, many of you should stop looking to it as like an instructional book and should instead start looking at it as what they are. They are films that push an edge and an agenda. Usually also a fetish. If you look at porn and you say, oh my guy, he thinks he can do that, you are dumb. And so is he. If anything, you should be asking your partners, what is it that you watch when you're not having sex with me? And both of you should learn from your partner. It'll be a trauma building this exercise for everybody. Because when you start doing this, you're going to start breaking down the walls. And when you start breaking the walls down, you're going to start breaking the bed frame down. And all of a sudden, now you have to make space in your bedroom for a nursery crib. So what I'm saying is, talk to your partner and tell them what you like. Don't amass a giant hentai folder of what you wish you could have done to you. Because once you start getting a cubby that sits in a back wall that's full of monster dicks, it's over, okay? It's over. It's a wrap. Pack it in. Go home. She don't belong to you no more. That's not your girl. That's Bad Dragon's newest fucking addict.
Since you all love hearing about my sex life, or rather my non-existent sex life, let's go down that route once again.
Skip.
UK, most young girls think that violent intercourse is normal intercourse. And the impact of that can be pretty severe, especially insofar as, inevitably, as a growing hormonal human being, I want to be intimate with somebody, but I can't do that. Physically, I cannot put myself into a situation. I cannot put myself into a sexual situation without wanting to throw up or without just yeeting it.
So don't. It sounds like a wild, novel idea of like, lol, just learn, lol. But no, literally, just don't do it. One of the things you need to do in relationships is set boundaries, especially if you are somebody who has baggage. It is the fair thing to do. You tell somebody that there's something that traumatizes you, and you explain to them the reason why it traumatizes you, and they ask you for details. You don't say, well, it's a long story. You tell them the story. Because they're with you this long, what makes you think they're not in it for the long haul? And then you try to find ways to deal with the problem. And if they then try to force that thing upon you, and you say, like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I don't know if I'll do it ever. I don't know if I can do it right now, but right now I cannot do it. And they keep pushing, then you need to give it the old college try until you are able to establish, okay, you're not understanding my boundaries, and you're also not respecting my boundaries, so I no longer want to be in this relationship with you. Simple as! Also, that's a wild statistic. Where did you get it from? Where did you get it from? I feel like if I ask Aiden to look into the statistic, she might blow a fucking gasket. Because I know I would. That many women believe that violent sex is the norm? Why do they believe that's the norm? What's the extrapolating factors that led to that number? Because isn't Britain the one where in the British Isles you made it so hard for people to have pornography that you had mothers actively put together? I know that you did because I saw it. You had mothers actively put together porn that they said they wanted their children to watch. It was literally a whole thing. It was on Channel 4.
And yes, this is a me thing.
I'm going to stop you right there. When you say this, what do you think that means? Just because it's a me thing doesn't mean it's voluntarily a me thing. That means it's involuntarily a mean thing. Which means it's you who needs to solve the involuntary thing that you cannot put yourself in sexually in relationships. equaling go to therapy. You can't put this on anybody else other than yourself. You cannot cry to Destiny about it. You cannot cry in a video at length about it while trying to tell us the nitty-gritty details of your sex life, which I honestly feel you should probably keep to yourself. If you are not comfortable, but what will happen when people have that source of information and they can now pass judgment on it. Just saying.
I would be incredibly shocked if a young man who was about to have sex with a woman who he just hooked up with or had known for a while and they'd been dating and finally they were going to do the deed, actually sat down with her and had a very raw, open and honest conversation about her, about what things sexually she likes, what things she would like, about whether she had experienced any kind of trauma or discomfort or wanted to just open up about it without it being about him wanting to compare himself to her other sexual conquests, without him feeling insecure about her sexual history, without judgment or ridicule, without him projecting onto her what he finds attractive or masculine or sexually appealing in other men.
I'm gonna be dead ass, Kidology. That is probably some of the unsexiest things that men could ever do. And for you, you'd be like, well, that's the point. I couldn't imagine if a young man could be able to do such a thing. No, Mary Poppins. The problem is that that's not real. Again, Harlequin romance novel. You are describing a scene in a Harlequin romance novel where he's about to deflower her, but instead he sees that she's holding back from him emotionally. So she unfurls with purple prose into his hands, and with every single sentence he's listening to her, really seeing, feeling her before he feels up on her. I'm gonna be dead ass with you. That kind of thing doesn't happen in real life. If it does, and somebody would like to tell me how it did, please send recordings so that you can prove me wrong. But in real life, people will have these conversations before they ever take their belt off. If you're not selecting for good sexual partners. If what you want when you want to have sexual relationships is you want to have sex, you're not going to do that. If you're Kidology, and what you want is basically the interlude of chapter 1 before 15 pages of getting fucked down, like you're reading through Devil May Cry for the first time, not the video game, the book, then good luck, Charlie. I'm trying not to laugh like I find this funny for you. I actually pity you. I pity anyone who's like this, where in order for them to have an orgasm, somebody has to complete a gauntlet obstacle course of dating and love. I can't imagine that would be good for the man, especially considering the fact that he has to abstain from your mind just from the look of like, that's what you want him to do. That sounds like torture.
I think this is ultimately the core issue with incels, with your stereotypical incel, in which they project an image of what they perceive to be attractive or desirable in other men, according to the perspective of them as men, onto women.
Yet again, a horrible reading of what incels are and what they think. That's not what they think. These incels, the men that you label as individuals who cannot get sex because they are misanthropic towards the world, are looking at the primary sexual marketplace. They're using their eyes, they're observing, and they're seeing what the women are choosing and selecting and picking. Whether it be for casual sex, it be for copulation for the purposes of intentional pregnancy, whether it be the men that they're choosing to impregnate themselves with sperm for surrogacy, if they happen to be lesbians. They're looking at all these primary male first and secondary pillar characteristics, and they are seeing that that is not them. When they look at what is reflected back in the decisions and choices that women are making, it is not them. And rather than doing what a person should do, which is to say, well, what about myself can I fix to become either feeling better about who I am and increasing my prospects, or to become the thing that they desire, they are instead saying, stupid fucking feminist, everybody gets my girlfriend. Yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and play video games on the internet. Then my queen will find me. That is what they think. That is what they believe. The ones that are helpless and cannot be helped, they are the ones that we tell, physician, heal thyself. To you, I would say, physician, cream thyself. Because that's what has to happen. Nobody can fix you but you. And no amount of help, no amount of outside force, no amount of loving, gentle, motherly, buxom assistance is going to achieve what you yourself have to want. You have to want it. That's why it's called self-help. You have to want it. And you have to commit to it. Like, you can push somebody up the hill as much as you fucking want, but if they never show the desire of getting better or fixing or changing or even attempting to learn something that they didn't know yesterday, they are somebody who is fundamentally and primarily going to stay there for the rest of their lives. For you, I don't think this is going to be something that sticks you there for the rest of your life, but goddamn, you are a broken record throughout this entire video. The amount of times in which you define something else as incel when you are talking and describing yourself is wild to me. It's not humorous. It's not funny. It's not cute. Weaker and dumber content creators would laugh and say, haha, look, she can't find a man, she can't find a boyfriend, she can't even find a girlfriend. Doesn't that say something about her? But really what I'm hearing is a British woman's desire to find something that is meaningful and real while also dealing with a crippling demon on her back. But I can listen for as long as I want to, and if I notice that the woman, instead of realizing, oh yes, so you know there's a demon on your back, and you know how to excise it? And you have the materials to do it? Well, by Jove, good woman! Let me know when you get it done! And I come back a week later and it's like, you still haven't got the demon off your back? Oh, you mad blood! What's wrong with you, blood? I start questioning things, you know? There's no way that you can spend years and years and years and years and years and years and years bitching about any kind of compensation and any kind of logic and any kind of subject and say, no, the problem isn't with me, it's with them. There's only one thing that is in common with all the situations that you put yourself in, and that you are there. If you find that people are making decisions that do not reflect you or invite you or excite you or include you, you have to start factoring if there's something that you are or are not doing that is the cause of it. And if it's something that isn't a rational, meaningful understanding, like, oh, I wonder why the reason everybody doesn't invite me out. Oh, it's because they think I murdered somebody? Well, that sucks. There's nothing we can do about that. If it's, oh, I don't know why it is that I don't get invited out to go with my friends dancing at night, and one of your girlfriends peeks up and says, oh, the reason we don't invite you out dancing is that we started getting miserable with you because we tried to get you to do things, but you would say that you couldn't do it, you would put it off, you would push it off, and you would just drag on everybody else. And we just didn't want to hang out with you and make ourselves more depressed. But we also didn't want to leave you like this because we felt some type of, understanding, some sisterhood. And, well, we just didn't know what to do. And it was just easier this way. When does the mirror start reflecting you? The bottom falls out, The bottom just falls out. And it's okay that the bottom falls out. You got to pick the bottom back up and put it back in where it's supposed to be. But if you can't do the first thing you need to do, which is to say, I need help, none of us can help you. Physician, cream thyself. That's enough from me. I'm physically ill. I hated every single part of this. I don't want to do it again, but I must.